Train the muscles, not the joints. So I get this question a lot, and I don't know if there's an exact way to answer it because, like so many things, there are a lot of variables involved and individual variables, and each person is a little different. Each person has different genetics, all that kind of stuff. But the question is, how much weight is possible for a natural bodybuilder to gain in a year? Okay? So depending on your height and weight will depend also on what the ratios are. So I'm a 5'8" guy, okay? So gaining 5 pounds of muscle mass in a year is absolutely huge for me. And what I'm talking about right now is not about how much weight can you gain back, okay? So say you were a big bodybuilder at some point and then you lost weight for a period of time because you stopped eating or start doing cardio like I did with hockey and everything, and then you gain your weight back. That's totally different. Then it's possible to gain like 15, 20 pounds, 30 pounds in a period of 4 or 5 months, right? It's possible to gain the weight back very fast. But the first time around, okay, if say you're around 5'8", if you're 6 feet tall, then maybe this number will change to about 10 pounds, okay, or 8 pounds, because your bones lengths and everything, and everything's relative, okay? Everything's relative. So a taller person, if they put on 10 pounds of muscle mass, that is more possible for them than say a 5'8" person, because that's a lot more muscle mass. If they put on 10 pounds, it's way more muscle mass for their frame, okay? What I'm gonna say is, your first year of training is when you're gonna put on the most muscle mass, usually, okay? Assuming you know what you're doing. Some guys, they have a first couple of years training and they don't know what they're doing. And basically then finally 1 year, 3 years from then, they actually start training and they know what they're doing. They start doing the right rep ranges for them, the right range of motion, all this kind of stuff. And they start eating right. And then they put on more mass than the previous 2 years. Well, the reason why is because they actually started training properly, right? But assuming the first year, you had some instruction, from a YouTube video like this one, okay? Or like my channel, Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, or you had a trainer work with you or somebody that has some experience, and you're training like, 3, 4, 5 days a week, and you're really giving her, and you're eating properly. What is possible for a 5'8" guy to put on in a year? Well, the first year I'd say it's very possible to put on 10 to 15 pounds. And I'm talking about if you're an adult, okay? See, again, there's so many freaking variables here, right? If you're an adult and you're already 5'8", if you put on 10 to 15 pounds in your first year, that is possible. It could happen depending on your genetics or not, okay? Most likely though, most people put on 5 or 10 pounds of lean mass, about 5 or 10 pounds. Now, once you get more advanced, the more advanced you get, the harder it is to put on lean mass. I'm not talking about just putting on body fat. I'm talking about putting on lean muscle mass, okay? So when you get to, a couple years after training or 5 years after training, typically speaking, if I had a great year of training, I put on about 3 or 4 pounds of solid muscle mass. And of course, it keeps on getting harder and harder to get to the next step, right? Now, it is possible for you to have breakthrough moments where all of a sudden your body seems to just all of a sudden leap, for a few weeks or a few months, just all of a sudden make a leap in gains. It's almost like it was holding on to the old structure. And then you put in enough work and then finally it said, okay, it is normal for me to get stronger right now. It is a necessity for my environment for me to get stronger, put on muscle mass, and the food is all available, the sleep is all available, everything's available. And then sometimes you will make, a dramatic shift of a few pounds within a short period of time. But if somebody is gaining 20 pounds of muscle mass, 20 solid pounds of muscle mass after they've been training for a few years and they're putting on 20 solid pounds of muscle mass, and this is not weight that they're just gaining back from previous gains they had, and they're getting 20 pounds of muscle mass in a few months, well, then you usually know there's something going on, right? 20 pounds, like, you don't put on that kind of weight. And of course, there's discussions about what type of weight that is and why, but if it's 20 pounds of solid muscle, it's impossible. It's impossible to put that on in a couple months, right? So yeah, as a natural bodybuilder, expect if you're training properly, that anything from 3 to 7 or 8 pounds of lean mass, I'm not talking about the fat weight that a lot of guys are touting around on their YouTube channels. They're saying, look at me, I gained 10 pounds and they got a bunch of body fat with it. But if it's lean muscle mass, 3 to 7 pounds, that's a massively great year. That means you're doing everything right. And that's on a 5'8" frame. And I'd say, yeah, you're doing great things in your training if you're putting 3 to 7 pounds of muscle mass on in a year, right? Obviously, I try not to put limits on you either, because a lot of times people say, I don't know what's possible. And my question to you is why don't you find out? Why don't you find out what's possible for you and then keep on pushing that barrier and keep on, expanding upon that and actually being motivated by saying, hey, maybe I can make the body adapt in a different way than anybody else ever has. Maybe I could really, see what this relationship with this body, how far it takes me and how far I can go with it, right? because there's always been one person that's achieved greatness over the others, you know what I'm saying? So I find that the tragedy on the internet right now is that a lot of people are looking at somebody that might be unnatural and then saying, oh, well, I guess I could never gain muscles because I want to be a natural bodybuilder. And I'm saying, no, natural bodybuilders can gain better quality muscle, and I've proven it. I've beaten the guys on stage that are not natural, and you can gain better quality muscle, and the nice part is you actually keep it, right? Whereas a lot of the guys that aren't natural, in a lot of cases, they don't keep the muscle, or they have some health problems associated with the constant use or whatever it is they're doing, right? So I'm here to encourage you to find out what those limits are, because for each person it will be different. Some people, they'll have a tendency to put on muscle mass very fast, and other people have a tendency to put it on very slow. So you have to work with that and find out what really works for you. And I'm sure that there is a magic technique for you, you know, something that's special for you that will help you achieve greatness in your physique, you know? So I think that where a lot of people get caught up is that they see how somebody else trains and they say, I must train that way because that worked for them. And then they try to do it and it doesn't work. And then they say, oh, I must be a hard gainer, or there's something wrong with me. So what if that's just not the right technique for you? You know, what if you have to find your technique, and that's the secret to making more gains in your natural bodybuilding goals, right? So that's really what I want to say. I don't want to discourage any of you from achieving greatness and greatness bigger than anything you've ever seen. What I want to do is say, find your way, and that will bring its own greatness with it, right? So thanks a lot for watching, and if you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com and take care for now.